AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
ESPN2 and ESPNU.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio.
Let's ride!
Hour 2, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. AFR, presented by Relief Windows. I'm Matt.
Love you, Matt.
Paul O'Neill.
They're chanting Paul O'Neill's name.
Musso. And Mr. Toby Tomplay. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Talk some Saints with Mike Triplett here in about 15 minutes from right now. UFC 318 in New Orleans over this weekend. I was in that number, as were many, many, many of you. It was packed. It was awesome. And fantastic to see the UFC back in New Orleans after a 10-year hiatus. Ronnie Rantz is the head of the Louisiana Fight Commission, in addition to being the president of the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and the owner of the Baton Rouge Rougarou and a two-time national champion out at LSU as part of Skip Ertman's first and second national championship teams. I don't know how many more hats Ronnie can wear, but I want to talk to him here about UFC 318. Slimbo, how are you?
And the host of Sports Shorts Radio.
How could I forget?
Saturday morning, right here on ESPN from 10 to noon on Saturdays.
How could I forget? Shame on me. Bad program director. Hey, walk me through, if you would, to whatever degree you can tell us, why it took 10 years to get the UFC back to New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Vegas is a strong market, right? I mean, you know, the casino every 5 feet and is a lot of money, and the Nevada Athletic Commission does a really good job. You know, we are now rebranded officially as the Louisiana State Athletic Commission. There's 7 chairmen that oversee boxing, wrestling, MMA, slap fighting, you name it, different events in the state. I'm the chairman of that commission, 7 commissioners. And, you know, it took a while. It took the right governor as well. You know, obviously governor played a large role. You know, the city, the state put together a package to entice the UFC to come to New Orleans. You know, and the biggest player in that whole deal was Dustin Poirier himself. You know, he wanted his last fight to be in his home state. He initially had asked for the Cajun Dome. The UFC said, no, we're not going to go to that market. We need a bigger market, more hotel rooms, et cetera. So then it became New Orleans, and, you know, credit the governor for stepping up and getting the numbers right.
Yeah. Obviously there's fan interest. I mean, that wherever the UFC goes, Ronnie, and look, I mean, I've seen fights in Vegas and Houston and Dallas and Atlanta and New Orleans. I mean, I love the sport, so I'll go over to watch it. No matter where it goes, people come. So fan interest wasn't ever going to be a problem. The question is, what else had to be there to entice, you know, the UFC to come back?
Well, you know, obviously the time of the year, there was a lot of questions around this fight. I'll be honest with you, man. Okay. I remember being in discussions months ago about 2 things. One, 10 years ago when they had the UFC in the Smoothie King Center, it wasn't a sellout. And so what would ticket sales look like? Well, that took care of itself. This thing sold out. It was a firm sellout. It had an $8.09 million gate, the largest gate in the history of the Smoothie King Center for any event.
Wow.
And on top of that, 65% of all tickets were sold to out-of-state people. So 65% of the people that held tickets or bought tickets And of course, they get redistributed sometimes, right, on the secondary markets and whatnot. But 65% of the tickets were from folks out of the state of Louisiana, so that's great for hotels, restaurants, air travel, et cetera. And it was a who's who in there. And I talked to a guy you know real well, Ryan Clark, big MMA fan, right? And Daniel, he and Daniel Cormier had a podcast for a while, and I talked to DC as well, as I presented him his Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame jacket because he wasn't able to be there in 24. He was in Saudi Arabia doing a UFC fight. Mm-hmm. And they said this was a great building and a great venue because he said, a lot of the fights, and Ryan Clark said, look, I've been around the world, I've seen MMA. He said most of the time it's a late arriving crowd. They come for the main event card or whatever. This crowd was early. The fight started at 5:15. The main event itself with Holloway and Poirier wasn't until, 10:30 or something or later.
Friend, try
was it later?
Try 11:45.
Oh golly, I didn't realize it was that late.
We didn't get out of there until after midnight.
Okay, and it was a long day. I didn't know the timeline, but the point is that I would say 7:30 that building was 75% full, at least 75% full at 7:30. Watching all the prelims and the undercard stuff, and it was an electric crowd, and so that was noticeable to the guys that go all the time to UFC everywhere. That man, this crowd came early. They stayed. They were into it. It was electric. The atmosphere. It wasn't just for the Poirier fight, which, by the way, 20% of all tickets sold for this fight were in the Southwest Louisiana area.
Very cool.
So that's Dustin's people, and But, yeah, everything was great. The commissioner was great. We had over 75 people working this event. I mean, everybody backstage from wrapping gloves to inspectors to referees to, you name it, all fall under the Louisiana State Athletic Commission. And not to mention, we had slap fighting on Friday that for the first time ever in the state of Louisiana, which was an incredible event. That was at Xavier University. It was amazing. I enjoyed that thoroughly. And then we also had Fury. We had an MMA event over at the Hilario Center Friday night. We had some more fights over there, a Fury production. So it was a busy weekend.
Ronnie Rantz is with us. Muse, do me a favor, play the Dana White clip. Ronnie, I'm sure you've heard this already, but this was Dana White after the event on Saturday about the possibility of bringing UFC back to New Orleans.
This city's incredible. I haven't been here in a long time. It's crazy. I tried to go down on Bourbon Street the other night, and I haven't been on Bourbon Street since me, Frank, and Lorenzo came here to watch the UFC to consider buying it. That was the last time I was on Bourbon Street. I didn't realize that until we came here. But the governor has been amazing. The Athletic Commission has been incredible. Caesar's Palace has been incredible. I mean, I could go on. And the way these people support their own is awesome to see. I love that kind of shit. Yes, we will figure something out here in New Orleans to make sure we come back a lot more than we have been.
So, Ronnie, I'm a huge fight fan. I was there Saturday. What does it look like? So it's not 10 more years. What's the process of getting it back more quickly?
Well, I can say that his sentiments have been echoed through all of his lieutenants as well. It's not just Dana speaking at a press conference, and sometimes you say things a little fluffy, at a press conference that you don't necessarily mean. But that it's been echoed by everybody. And I think the thing is this: it's been 10 years, right, since they've been here, and I think sometimes. In Vegas, that athletic commission over there. I mean, there's 3 fights a week. There's stuff going on all the time, and so to come here, it was all hands on deck. Everybody was excited. From the little guy to the big guy, and everywhere in between. And I think everybody went above and beyond to make their time in New Orleans and the state an enjoyable one, and we helped them. And I think that Southern hospitality, quite frankly, was for real for them, and they don't necessarily get that everywhere. And so I think it was such an enjoyable experience. He said, look, I promise you, this is what he said on Friday night. He said, I promise you we're going to bring a serious, a major pay-per-view event back to New Orleans here very shortly. What that timeline looks like is too early to tell. But if I had to think, I think every 2 years it's realistic to think right now, especially with Jeff Landry as the governor and his love for the sport and the way that those two hit it off. I think as long as Jeff Landry is the governor, it's going to be much sooner than later.
I love that. Ronnie Rantz with the Louisiana State Athletic Commission. I think I called it the Fight Commission. My apologies. Commissioner of that commission. But, you know what I mean. But in any event, it was a great event. I love being there. And, selfishly, I would love to see it come back so much more often. Hey, great work by everybody involved. Is there anything else that we haven't touched on that people need to know as you all sort of do your assessment now that the event has happened?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Did you know or see or pay any attention about the slap fighting event Friday? Have you ever been to that or watched any of that?
I have not been. It's obviously relatively new. I've watched some of it. It's not my favorite, but for different reasons we probably don't need to get into. You don't have to earn your strike, I guess is the point. You're basically just there's skill to it, undeniably. You're just testing chins is all you're doing here. I mean, can you get hit on the chin and not pass out?
Well, I'll tell you this: it was an electric atmosphere, and sometimes you see those little clips from Eastern Europe of slap fighting because that's where it originated, and it's a little gruesome. It wasn't as gruesome in person. The production, I mean, UFC owns it, so the production was incredible, just like a UFC fight. There's a lot more rules and a lot more legalities to how what they do, and it was a who's who in the building. I mean, I think half the LSU football team was there Friday night. You saw, tons of influencers from TikTok and Instagram and all that were there. And to a consensus, everyone who walked out of there, I overheard everyone saying, man, that was a lot cooler than I thought it would be. That was a lot less gruesome than I thought it would be. That was fun, And so that event was really a surprise, and I think you're going to see that grow. We were only the third state in the United States to approve slap fighting a year ago. I think now maybe there's 5 or 6. Yeah,
man. It's if UFC touches it and Dana White touches it.
Did you hear what's happened with UFC? They've now gotten into boxing, and they're starting their own belts and everything. They're having their first fight ever at the Allegiant Stadium, the home of the Raiders, over in Vegas. Day one of their card announcement, 40,000 tickets sold.
I'd love to see it, man. I'd love to see you. Well, I mean, boxing has been its own worst enemy over the years, but some type of unification of a promotion that would make sense by people who actually know what they're doing would be awesome. But in any event, a great time this weekend. Of course, love to support when we can in the future. Thanks, man. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, be well. That's Ronnie Rantz. It's after further review. We'll go from one New Orleans event to another. UFC 318 this past weekend. The New Orleans Saints open up training camp here in a couple of days. Mike Triplett will join us next on AFR.
AFR.
I've told you for years about Darren James and Associates, brokered by LPT Realty. Listen to Darren relay a conversation he had recently with a client.
I had a man the other day ask me, Darren, how many houses do you sell a year and so forth? And I said, I sell a lot. I said, but the one that really matters is the one I'm sitting in right now, right? And he's like, man, I really appreciate that answer. It doesn't matter if it's a $50,000 home, a $50 million home. If a listener's going through a divorce, if a listener's trying to buy their first home, if they're having trouble selling it, expired off the market, it didn't sell for whatever reason, I would love to be able to help them. And I have a lot of passion when it comes to that. And every single sale, every client of ours becomes family.
It's not just lip service. When you meet Darren, you'll understand it. There's a reason he's on the Wall Street Journal's list of the top 1% of realtors in America, number 17 in the country. And remember, he's got his guaranteed sale program. Agree to a price and a deadline. If Darren doesn't sell your home at that price by that deadline, he'll have it bought with cash or he'll sell it for free. You need to sell your home. You need Darren James.
Think real estate. Think Darren James.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and we do shutters too.
New Orleans Saints open up training camp here in just a couple days. Great opportunity to catch up with Mike Triplett from NewOrleans.football. How are you, man?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I guess maybe the one tense moment of the offseason was whether or not they'd get the deal done with Tyler Shuck. I guess it's, the deadline really is the start of camp, and they got it done. Any surprises?
No, with that contract negotiation or surprise in general? No, it could have become awkward if guys drafted in front of him didn't get fully guaranteed deals, and then he wanted a fully guaranteed deal. But as it turned out, everyone in front of him got fully guaranteed, so the Saints' decision was a no-brainer, and there ended up being no tough decisions whatsoever in that, and it got done in plenty of time. So that all ended up being a non-story. And frankly, even, I've seen some takes that, they fully guaranteed it. That means they're committed to him. it was going to be 95% guaranteed if it wasn't 100% guaranteed. So it doesn't change their level of commitment to him. The commitment was drafting him 40th overall.
Yeah. It all ties in together. The money itself, you mentioned, if it was going to be 92% guaranteed or whatever it was going to be, roughly $1 million difference had he gotten that or the fully guaranteed deal. Do you look at any part of this contract as potentially being salary cap impactful at any point during the 4-year deal?
No, the only thing is now you can obviously never walk away from it without having to pay him every dollar. But he's going to play 4 years for $10 million. I mean, it's the same as Kool-Aid McKinstry's deal. It's the same as Isaiah Foskey's deal, except for the natural inflation of every year. So we could see them walk away from Isaiah Foskey next year. If he doesn't live up to his deal, we could see them walk away from Tyler Shuck. If he doesn't, no harm, no foul. What you would much rather have, though, is the guy making $10 million for 4 years and being your starting quarterback at the same time. It's the best possible cheat code in sports.
That's Russell Wilson being a third-round draft pick and making a couple of Super Bowls. Mike Triplett's with us. Another transaction over the weekend was they added Jonathan Bullard on the defensive line. Any reaction to the player or the decision to add another defensive lineman?
Yeah, look, he's a pretty ordinary player that kind of, does the dirty work and doesn't get a lot of attention for it, but he's going into his 10th year in the league, and he began his career playing for Brandon Staley with the Chicago Bears. The reaction is just that they did it at all. I already considered that their most overcrowded position group. We had 53-man roster projections to do. Obviously they're transitioning to a 3-4 defense, but first thing they did was trade for Devon Gottschall to be their nose tackle on the first day of free agency. And then very early in the draft, they drafted an interior lineman in Vernon Broughton. We know Brian Brzez's not going anywhere. They've now signed Jonah Williams and Jonathan Bullard as veteran, experienced free agents. And they still had Nathan Shepard, Colin Saunders, John Ridgway, and Christian Boyd from the previous team. There is not enough. Three of those guys aren't going to make the roster. So I'm very, very interested to see who the odd man out will be.
You stole the words out of my mouth. Who is going to be the odd man out if you had to guess?
Well, it doesn't seem great for the guys who were here before. They're not the ones who signed them. They're not the ones who drafted them. They're changing their defensive scheme, and they're going after different players who presumably fit that scheme. So I think it'll be really difficult for John Ridgway and Christian Boyd, who they haven't invested much in. And the guys I'm most curious about is what does it mean for Colin Saunders and Nathan Shepard? Are they safe?
Yeah, Bo Davis, even from a short time at LSU, we learned he wants big, gigantic defensive linemen, and guys like Devon Gottschall, Bullard, they certainly fit the bill. Mike Triplett's with us, NewOrleans.football. I'm interested to hear you say you thought defensive tackle was the most crowded position, because I'd probably peg that as tight end, where they've got 9 tight ends. Let me start. Do you have any update or any knowledge of Taysom Hill, Foster Moreau, their recovery from injury?
I should say defensive tackle, I would say, is the most crowded position of guys who have either been drafted or started games in the league. But you're right. Tight end has a lot of guys. They don't have a lot of proven guys, though. So it's one of the more curious positions on the team for sure. I think Foster Moreau should be ready to go really soon. We saw him the entire time during OTAs and minicamp, working off to the side, getting involved in drills a little bit, sounded very optimistic about his recovery timetable. Taysom Hill, on the other hand, was kind of out of sight, out of mind until he showed up watching from the sidelines during minicamp. He's been doing most of his work and recovery back close to home. But, it was an indication that he's still part of this team and that he still plans to play and they still plan to have him back. But his timetable is a real mystery. So that position, until we see those guys back participating on a regular basis, is one of the most unproven positions on the roster for sure.
Would you take a look at Noah Fant?
I would, for sure I would. Not only because of what we just said about the tight ends and the injury question marks and the age, not to Foster Moreau and Taysom Hill are both somewhat older guys. Taysom Hill, obviously older than Foster, but they're both heading into the final years of their deal. So Noah Fant's younger, but he's also a big pass catcher, and I think we've agreed for a long time that big pass catcher is one of the positions that they didn't fill this offseason.
He's on Twitter at Mike Triplett. Mike, as they push off the dock for training camp here in about 48 hours, everyone's going to be watching quarterback. But is there anything else as far as camp storylines that you think should be, if not at the top of the marquee, maybe, 1A, 1B?
Yeah, look, the story I wrote, the last story I wrote last week was I'm watching 2025, but I'm watching it with an eye toward 2027. Like that, everything that matters most to me is, can this be the start of a 3-year plan? And obviously that includes Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley and the staff. Like, I want to see how they run a team, how they run things differently, how they reshape the culture and the energy around here. But then I turn to Kelvin Banks and Tali Fawaga, and I turn to Kool-Aid McKinstry, and I turn to the younger players that need to become the foundation of this team. I think Chris Olave is a huge one. I don't know if we'll learn anything about him in camp, but, if he can get past this concussion issue, and hopefully it was just a bad luck and a bad string, he becomes the best asset they have for now and the future. So to me, it's everyone that can be a part of a 3-year plan.
New Orleans.football, of course, on Twitter at Mike Triplett. Mike, I know they're going to split camp where they do a little bit of time out in L.A. You've gone to Greenbrier, you've gone to L.A., you've seen New Orleans. I know you were at the beginning of the Peyton era when they were in Mississippi. Do you have any strong feel one way or another about where they have these practices?
Look, there is great reason to be in certain climates. I mean, when they were in West Virginia, when they were in California, when they were in Oxnard, you just get an incredible amount of snaps in. And it's a team that needs to teach everybody the offense, teach everybody the defense, get a lot of snaps in. So I'm all for that. I mean, if a coach believes in that, get your work done. It's great when the fans can see it. It's great, I guess, to get acclimated to the hot weather and toughen up. But, get the work done that you need to get done. But I've never liked when they've gone for too long. Like, 2 weeks, 1 week, 10 days. I like that. Like, if I'm going to go away to training camp, I'm coming home before the first preseason game. I think they were away for a long time last year. You can't argue that they were ready for the season, though. They came out like gangbusters at the beginning of the season last year. But that would be my take on it. So this is probably a pretty good mix. Be home, be in front of the fans, have all your facilities around, but also break it up in the middle with 10 days in perfect weather.
10 days in perfect weather sounds really awesome right about now.
Yeah.
Mike Triplett, New Orleans.football. Always appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, be well. It is After Further Review. Brought to you by Shawbills Tire and Auto Service. ShawBillsTire.com, ShawBillsTire.com. With locations all over South Louisiana. You're never far from a Shawbills location. I know a lot of people right now are getting that last little bit of summer vacation in before school starts, before back to school starts. So make sure you get on by, bring your vehicle to Shawbills if you need any of that work done. ShawBillsTire.com. You need to buy tires. They'll sell you name brand tires at wholesale prices. You need your tires rotated, oil change, brake squeaking, check engine light, whatever it may be. Shawbills has got you covered. ShawBillsTire.com. ShawBillsTire.com. It's Shawbills, where we keep you rolling. Good stuff there by Mike. We appreciate it. The Saints, of course, the rookies will report tomorrow. They'll hit the practice field for the first time on Wednesday, the 23rd. And then they're steamrolling toward that first preseason game. Hard to believe, y'all, but the first preseason game, not the Saints, but the Hall of Fame game is a week from Thursday. The NFL Hall of Fame game is Thursday, July 31st. It's a week from Thursday. Could not be more excited to watch some football on TV. I don't say it all the time, but it's through the lens of a sports talk radio guy. LSU Baseball getting into the end of June is awesome for us because it's content to the end of June, and then you got the 4th of July, and then you're at SEC Media Day. So it's here, right? And then the Saints report, then LSU reports, it's here. But it's just, for us, content-wise, great, but it also bridges the summer for sports fans. When you're that invested in a team, if you're still playing to the end of June, and then, man, you go on a family vacation, you blink, and football starts. So excited for it. We appreciate Mike. He'll be part of our coverage all throughout the Saints season, as well as he has been the last handful of years So we always appreciate Mike Triplett for hanging out with us. All right, it's after further review. Speaking of LSU baseball, 3 more LSU Tigers have signed their professional contracts. So we'll take a look at what the baseball roster for 2026 is shaping up to look like a little bit here as we continue on AFR.
AFR.
Get Gordon and get it done. Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. Tell you all the time, if you've been injured in an accident, it's not your fault. Do what injured people in our state have done for 3 decades. Get Gordon and get it done. Make sure you're following Gordon on social media. It's at Get Gordon. Pretty easy. At Get Gordon. Does a great job of giving out sort of legal advice as well. Big picture, broad stroke stuff. But a lot of times, like, what if you're traveling on vacation and you get in a car wreck in another state? Well, what do you do? Well, he's got advice for that, and it's free, and it's on all his social channels. And, of course, they do a great job of distributing all their G-Team content as well. You know, Gordon sitting down over at the garage with members of the G-Team or whatever it may be. You can get it all at Get Gordon on any of the social media handles, at Get Gordon, at Get Gordon. And, of course, if you've been injured in an accident, it's not your fault. Don't go it alone. You can trust my friends at Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys, the great team all over the state of Louisiana. So go to getgordon.com, getgordon.com. Get Gordon and get it done.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and we do shutters too.
Always appreciate Brandon Holly and the gang over at Relief Windows. If a 96-degree oppressive heat is causing your AC to work overtime, you want to make your home more energy efficient, call the friends at Relief Windows. Get some relief. Relief Windows and reliefwindows.com. Jay Johnson has the unenviable task of trying to rebuild a roster after winning a national championship. Of course, the great part of that is you won the national championship, but you lose everybody on your infield except your starting shortstop, and you lose a couple of key pieces there in the outfield. Ethan Fry, 1 spot. Well, I guess theoretically he was going to contend for a corner spot this year. But Jay Johnson is making his way through this whole process of portal, draft, who's gone, who's going to sign, who will be there. And we're starting to get a little bit of a clearer picture now. It was totally expected, but Chase Shores and Anthony Ianson both now have signed their professional contracts. Shores got about $2 million, and it's totally understandable that he would sign. And we talked about it a lot leading up to the draft, but he basically had a choice to make among 2 options. One was take about $2 million and go start your professional career, especially for a guy that had already had Tommy John, has been a part of 2 national championship teams, and now was on the mound recording the final out. Or you come back to LSU because you still have a year of leverage. Come back to LSU, you vie for a spot in the rotation, and if you show scouts that you can be a starter against the SEC in a high-level one, then next year you're Cade Anderson, and you're signing for $9 million. So that was a decision he had to make. Would he take the $2 million bird in hand, or would he go, or would he come back to LSU and bet on himself? And ultimately, hard to blame a guy for passing on, for taking $2 million. So Chase Shores signs, and the same with Anthony Ianson, as we knew he was going to be a one and done at LSU. He signed an over slot deal with the Boston Red Sox. Yeah, incredibly too. Briggs McKenzie is one of the guys we talked about. Briggs McKenzie. Slot value, that was one of the high school signees. Briggs McKenzie's slot value was just south of $500,000. He signed for nearly $3 million. He got the equivalent slot value of the number 32 overall pick. And it's just a further illustration of how different the Major League Draft can be. I know we say it often, but just as a reminder, that the top 10 rounds are the bonus slot pool rounds. So every team has a bonus pool of money that they can spend, but they can only spend it on those those top 10 round picks. And if you draft a guy who doesn't sign, that money goes away. You don't get to reallocate it elsewhere. So that's why we always say if a player is taken in the top 10 rounds, they've already agreed to the terms of their deal. Because if the team calls you, they'll say, hey, we're going to take you here. Would you accept X? And the answer is yes or no. If it's yes, they pick you. If it's no, they move on and draft someone else. So sometimes you have guys sitting there in later rounds that you weren't expecting to be there. Like, I believe it was the Braves who took Briggs McKenzie. It's just there's a guy that they weren't expecting to be there where he was, and so they moved around money and took him. Connor Ware was one of two guys that kind of had an interesting decision to make. So Ware, among those that remain unsigned, it was Connor Ware and River Hamilton, the freshman. And Hamilton went in the 11th round and Ware in the 15th round. And so for Connor Ware, remember, this was a guy who came in this season from junior college. And in the fall, he was outstanding. And it just never quite clicked for him this baseball season. And come to find out, he was managing a little bit of a back injury that limited him at times this year. So Ware was another guy that in theory had a decision to make. Do you come back to LSU, vie for a more consistent spot, maybe a rotation spot, or do you sign your professional deal and go begin your pro baseball career? Well, ultimately, that's what he did. As a 15th round pick, signed his deal with the Mets. He announced it on his Instagram on Sunday. So Connor Ware is now gone. So the one we're really waiting on now, the one remaining really that we're waiting on is River Hamilton, who was taken in the 11th round. And my guess is that he's going to sign a pro contract, but we'll wait and see until it's official. So if you're just looking at the numbers as a whole, and Hunt Palmer did a great job. It's over at LouisianaSports.net if you want to look at Hunt's breakdown on it. There's 39 players on the roster right now for next baseball season. They're going to have to get down to 34 by opening day, but remember, there is a caveat. There's an asterisk. So under the House settlement, the NCAA allows for what is called a designated student athlete. To summarize this as simply as I can, if a player was going to be cut because of the new roster limit, the school can label him a DSA, a designated student athlete, and DSAs can count over the number. So really, there is no roster limit. To say it frankly. I mean, if you're at 39 and you'd have to get down to 34, Jay Johnson can look at 5 guys and say, hey, we're going to DSA you. And so they have the label of being a designated student athlete. So you don't have to cut anybody. I don't know what they're going to do because you'd still have to, whatever scholarship athlete, you still have to pay that scholarship money and whatever funding would have to be. I mean, they're going to have to make some decisions, but effectively they don't have to cut anybody if they didn't want to cut anybody. And the other thing, too, is if you're DSA'd, for example, as a freshman coming in, then you carry that DSA tag for the rest of your career no matter where you go. So for the next 4-5 years, whatever, 3, 4, 5 years, you are a DSA, so you can help any school's roster numbers wherever you may be it at LSU or if they transfer or vice versa. So just something to consider. You're going to hear that's going to be added to our vernacular as sports fans. You're going to hear DSA, designated student athlete. Just become used to hearing that because that's something that's not going away. So as of right now, if you look at the roster breakdown, 3 catchers with Cade Arambidi, who I think we're all assuming is going to be the starter, replacing Luis Hernandez. Eddie Yaman, who's a catcher, first base, third base, DH candidate. You transferred in from Dayton this year, took a red shirt, so he's back. Could very well be your backup catcher. And then Omar Cerna, who's the freshman, is one of the top 2, 1, 2, 3 catchers in the high school class coming in, bypassed the draft. He could be a backup catcher, could be a first base, right-handed DH candidate as well. So just one to keep an eye on. You got 10 infielders outside of the 3 catchers, 5 outfielders with Stanfield, Brown, and Curiel back. Daniel Harden is an interesting one. If you're not familiar, Daniel's from Catholic High in Baton Rouge, and of course Catholic has an incredible baseball program. They won a national championship a year ago and have won back-to-back state titles. I'll spare you the loud Catholic High yell, but Daniel is an exceptional athlete, and he's an outfielder on those great Catholic High teams, but he also played football. And so as a baseball prospect, he was just a little behind because he wasn't committed 12 months out of the year to baseball. And so if you're not at those showcase events, you're not at all the off-season stuff, the fall ball, all that sort of stuff, you're not being seen as much by the scouts. So Daniel Harden's a guy who basically was advised, hey, look, go to JUCO, play every day, commit to baseball, crush it, and then step back into the power level. So that's what Daniel did. He went to McLennan Community College, played in 61 games at 274, hit 8 bombs, walked 39 times. Strikeouts were a problem, 38 strikeouts, 39 walks. But that's a guy with incredible athleticism and tremendous upside. Comes to LSU where your outfield for 2026 is likely set with Stanfield, Brown, and Curiel. but you could look to 2027 and see a guy that's a potential starter for you there. And then 21 pitchers on the roster, so plenty of numbers, and we'll see how it all shakes out as they delve into the competition. But they may be looking to add another player via the portal if the right opportunity presents. But you needed desperately to go add power, and they did that. You lost your two co-aces. You went and added a weekend starter. You added Kansas's ace, Cooper Moore. You're getting Devin Sheeran back as well, plus all the young talented guys that are coming up with William Schmidt and Cooper Williams and Maverick Rizzi. So there's no shortage of options for Jay Johnson and for Nate Yeskie for 2026. They just got a lot of work to do over fall and then in preseason, and likely the first 4 to 6 weeks of the season to figure out what they had. Not that dissimilar from what this team had to do, but when they figured it out, they ran it all the way to a national championship. Tons of talent. They'll have to figure out roles as they move through fall and then ultimately through the spring. All right, it's after further review. Brought to you by Parish Construction Roofing, parishbuilt.com, parishbuilt.com. Tell you every day, do business with someone you know. That's me and Terrio and Richard Tilley and Joe Morales and Trent Davis and our whole staff. We appreciate everyone so much who's giving us the opportunity. Got an awesome text just a bit ago, and I won't mention the name of the company, but our commercial roofing manager, Matt Pearson, sent us all a text that we were just awarded a large commercial roofing job today, and they heard us talking about it. And yes, of course, at your home, any roof repair, replacement, we love to help you out. We can install gutters for you. We do soft wash, do all of it. But I want to remind you that we are a commercial roofing company as well. So if your commercial building needs a new roof or repair, you have any issues whatsoever, we have the best guy. We went and scoured the world and found Matt Pearson in Florida, and we brought him to Baton Rouge to be our commercial roofing manager. There's not a soul, I'm convinced, there's not a soul alive that knows more about commercial roofing than Matt Pearson. So if your commercial building is having any roof issues, roof repair, replacement, or you just need options, have a conversation. Trust me, have a conversation with Matt Pearson. You got something no one else could figure out, or you're trying to work out, is there a Band-Aid fix instead of a really expensive re-roof that could get you through some time? Matt knows he knows everything there is to know about commercial roofing. So do business with someone you know, especially if you're if you got a commercial roof and you need help. We'd love to help you out. Parishbuilt.com, parishbuilt.com. Do business with someone you know. Parish Construction Roofing, parishbuilt.com. And yes, we serve the entire state of Louisiana, so we'd love to help. Okay, it's after further review. We usually do Tigers and the Pros when we wrap up hour number 2. We had Mike Triplett with us a bit ago, and we did talk about both Jonathan Bullard and the possibility of the Saints adding Noah Fant. I have thoughts on that I'll get to next hour. Also, Big Ten Media Days getting underway, as is ACC Media Days this week. And the Big Ten Media kind of maybe threw out a little bit of a surprise with who they projected as their conference champion. We'll talk about that in the next hour. We got a ton to do, man. Lots of football talk. Love this time of year. I'm glad you're hanging out. Stay with us. It's AFR.
After further review.
Is 96 degrees. I cannot imagine walking into your home on July the 21st in Louisiana when it's 96 degrees with a heat index of 11 bajillion and your AC don't work. Whew. That ain't nothing nice, y'all. If you find yourself in that very unfortunate situation, call River City's 1 Hour Air. Big yellow vans and trucks with a giant clock on the side. You see them all over town. It's unmistakable. Go to Google. Look up their Google reviews. More than twice the amount of 5-star Google reviews of the next closest competitor. Because for 4 decades, they've treated people awesome. They're always on time or you don't pay a dime. They do quality work, and they're never going to pressure you into buying something you don't need. They'll give you a good, better, and best option, and you make your decision. It's River City's 1 Hour Air. 752-0001, 752-0001.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and we do shutters too.
Tommy sent me a text on my text line, said, Matt, regarding your criticism about post-media days votes, while I generally agree with you, you would have more credibility if you had voted. Don't not vote, then complain about those that did. First of all, thank you for texting, Tommy. Second of all, you used a double negative. Don't ever do that. Very bad grammar. And Tommy, my criticism of those that, and I'll put you this way. It would be different if I chose not to vote out of laziness. My decision not to vote in the preseason poll is my choice to abstain from what I think is a very flawed process. I don't vote for the reason that it all came to pass. Because the people that do, and by and large, the people at that event, don't take the time to take that seriously. So why would I want to participate in that exercise? That's my point. And my job is to talk about the topics that my audience cares about. And so I'm not going to sit here, host this show, and the league releases the preseason order of finish, and I'd go without commentary. Of course I'm going to talk about it. I mean, of course I am. But I'm also going to share with you my opinion and why it's rooted the way it is and why I decide what to do. Like, I don't even talk about LSU. I mean, Missouri is the best example of that. The media picked Missouri 12th. They won 10 games a year ago, and look at their schedule. Look at their schedule. There's no way that team finishes 12th. They'll finish somewhere in the middle of the league. But most people who voted didn't bother to look at that, to look at schedules or who has what returning. They just looked at logos. It's honestly what Eli Drinkwitz was complaining about last week and why he lobbied for a 30-team playoff, because his team is never going to get the benefit of the doubt. I'm no Missouri homer. I don't think they're a great team. They played a really weak schedule and won 10 games because of it. They were 9-3 and won their bowl game. Okay. But he's right in that if they were 10-2 and Alabama was 10-2 and the committee had to make a decision of who's getting in, Alabama's getting in because of the logo. And same thing. If it were LSU and Missouri, LSU would get in because of the brand. So that's the point that I was making. And yes, I'll absolutely complain about it because it's my job to sit here and give you opinions. And that's my opinion. But thanks for listening. I appreciate it. And don't use double negatives. All right, Muso, Tigers in the pros.
Tigers in the pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
All right, Andy Reid met with the media on Sunday, kind of kick off Chiefs training camp. He announced that 3 players would begin the season on the PUP list, physically unable to perform. Among those was former LSU cornerback Christian Fulton. Fulton signed a 2-year deal with Kansas City back in March after spending the last season with the Chargers. While the injury was not specifically disclosed, Reid did say that the recovery time for Fulton, the Chiefs are hopeful that it is, quote, relatively fast. It being training camp, Fulton is eligible to be removed off of PUP and added back to the roster and begin practice at any time, as long as it's before the final cut down to 53. Grant Taylor on the bump a night ago in relief for the Chicago White Sox. It was a shutout inning of relief with 3 punch-outs. K's the side. He's been great so far in his first season with the big club. Cole Henry got the final outs for the Washington Nationals a night ago. They were getting destroyed, so it didn't really matter in context of the win. But he did throw a shutout 9th inning with a strikeout as well. He's bounced back after a couple of rough outings there for Grant Taylor. Paul Skeens, he's on the bump tonight for the Pittsburgh Pirates as they face the Detroit Tigers, one of the best teams in Major League Baseball. Skeens is 4-8 with an ERA just north of 2. He's punched out 131 in 121 innings pitched. I'm sure he'll pitch great. The Pirates will score no runs, and they'll lose, and Skeens will get a no decision. And then lastly, in the WNBA All-Star Game over the weekend, Angel Reese played 17 minutes. Been dealing with a little bit of a leg injury, but managed 6 points and 9 boards. That's Tigers in the pros.
Presented by Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. You know what Angel Reese did after she beat Caitlin Clark in the Natty? She did one of these. She's pouring at the ring. If you want to put a ring on it, go to Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. 9 locations in all, 2 of them in Baton Rouge, Corbett Boulevard right there in Bocage, Mall of Louisiana, New Orleans, Lafayette, Shreveport, and online at lmfj.com. lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. They're the best. You will never find a lab diamond. You will only find diamonds from the finest mines in the world when you go into Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Every diamond is hand inspected by a family member before it goes into the case. You want something that you'll take pride in, that'll make you a hero, that she will love, that you'll proudly pass on to generations of your family. You want Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. lmfj.com. lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. I appreciate y'all for hanging out with us here on this Monday edition of AFR. Got a lot to get to in hour 3. It's really all football. I mean, we're staring down the barrel of football season. When we come back, I do want to talk about the Saints adding Jonathan Bullard, the defensive lineman, over the weekend, and I will get into whether or not I think the Saints, or why I think the Saints probably should make a pass at signing tight end Noah Fant, who was released by the Seahawks on Monday. So we'll get to that. Also, the American Athletic Conference has changed their name. The media in the Big Ten made a pretty bold decision who they're picking to win the league, and I happen to agree with them. We'll get into all that as we continue. Hour 3 of AFR coming up after SportsCenter.
After further review.
So I have one more vacation. Leaving tomorrow, going to Mexico. Erica and I, some friends, are celebrating their 20th wedding anniversary, and they invited several couples to go, and so we're leaving tomorrow. So I'll be packing tonight, or actually I'll be packing tomorrow morning. Let's just be real. Erica's been packing for 6 days. I'll start tomorrow. One thing I won't be packing is contact lens, contact solutions, glasses. Whenever I take out my contact lens, or you have to worry about falling asleep with your contact lens in and all that trash. I left that behind 7 years ago. When I finally did what I should have done probably a decade before, and I went to Dr. Blake Williamson at the Williamson Eye Center, had LASIK, and it changed my life. If you don't wear contacts or glasses, God bless you. I'm so pumped that you have great vision, sincerely. But if you do wear contacts or glasses, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Imagine being able to wake up in the morning, open your eyes, and just see. Every day, always. It's an incredible gift. You can make it happen at the Williamson Eye Center.